So that was the much needed and very crucial tri-services briefing that has been now organized. All questions were answered. All clarity that was needed has been given, but there were some very pertinent points. Remember, one, and I must break it down for you one by one, no rollback for the Agnipath scheme right now, but there is also no place for tainted aspirants, referring to the violence that has taken place, and all the senior officers here stating and acknowledging that the violence was not just by aspirants. They were provoked, they were misled, and there were different elements who provoked them consistently to indulge in this violence. And if there is possibly an FIR named, a mention that has come with disturbing law and order, that individual may not even get an opportunity possibly to become an Agniveer, because there is no space for indiscipline in India's armed forces. Very important briefing that was done by, remember, for the Chief of Personnel from the Navy, also the Department of Military Affairs, Additional Secretary Lieutenant General Anil Puri, and from the Indian Air Force, the personnel in charge, Air Marshal Suraj Jha, taking all questions and one by one explaining how there is no place for rioters or arsonists, no place for tainted aspirants, because there will be a background check, remember, that has always happened for the armed forces. And if in the background this indulgence in violence has appeared, it may just mean there will be that individual not becoming an Agniveer. Also stating, because the forces are keen on discipline, violence will not be taking you anywhere. A reminder for all those who have been indulging in the violence for the past few days. But also stating that they were not just aspirants, they were clearly being provoked. But remember, apart from this, stating, and this was the most important, despite some amendments coming in, some changes being suggested, there is no rollback for the Agnipath scheme, and all the senior officers saying that this was long dreamt of. In fact, from about 1989, there was a plan and there was a suggestion coming in for a youthful army for India. It could not really come to a conclusion, but all of that was put into a plan and has been now announced. But also very importantly, remember what Lieutenant General Anil Puri has said, who's the Additional Secretary, Department of Military Affairs, that give it time. We have announced it, we have a plan in mind, but let's go for the details to our Executive Editor, Shiv Arur. Shiv, definitely the most crucial briefing coming in. Take us through some of the points that must be mentioned very clearly.
General Anil Puri of the Department of Military Affairs, Pooja, has very categorically said that there's going to be no rollback in the Agnipath scheme. He's also very importantly, given clarity on the fact that those named in FIRs, as part of the protests that are raging in different parts of the country, they can forget about ever donning the uniform. They will, the defense forces, the doors will be closed to them forever. That's a very, very important announcement, and that message, needs to go out there, because there's a huge difference between legitimate protests and the kind of vandalism and violence that has taken place in different parts of the country. So a clear message going out from the military that anyone indulging in vandalism, they are basically tainted aspirants, and the doors are closed in the forge for them permanently. So that's an important message. Third key message that he made was that, amendments are possible, tweaks and changes and reviews are possible, as have been announced in the last couple of days by the government, but that there will be no rollback. Obviously, a note of caution needs to be struck, because, there are many who are seeing the Agnipath scheme and sort of equating it with the farm laws. And remember how the government had for over a year said no rollback as far as the farm laws was concerned, and then of course went ahead and rolled them back. So most people will probably scoff at the system saying no rollback at this early stage, because as things escalate, as the dynamics of the of the situation change, as elections come, many things can actually happen. And plus, this is a national security matter where where the elbow room for change is very, very little. But, given that the government is having to do so much firefighting, obviously raises very big questions over the execution, the implementation, the announcement, all of those things. It is very true, Pooja, that Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, while he announced Agnipath, had said that there will be more announcements in the days ahead. But the very fact that the government has not been able to, get early warning on the possible repercussions of lack of clarity, having to constantly clarify, having to constantly add amendments and SOPs to such an important scheme, is something that has revealed the flaws in it in the first place? And those are questions that the government will have to answer. The owners cannot be on anybody else. Of course, the opposition, and vested interests are going to mislead. Of course, there are people who are going to, fan the fury of protest against Narendra Modi and the government. Of course, there are going to be inimical elements using WhatsApp groups to, create tension in the country. Those are all, known devils. But the fact that the government has not been able to preempt this by providing a cohesive clarity on the questions that many legitimate protesters are asking is something that's going to dwell on their minds, even as so many parts of the country burn right now. But I think a clear message in many ways has been sent out. No rollback, at least for now. Amendments likely. But most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, my big takeaway is anybody named in the FIR, and there are going to be hundreds, if not thousands of them, they can forget about ever donning the uniform. It's a clear, strong message, and I hope the government sticks to it.